You are listening to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your host for today is B. Allen Bourgeois.
This is B. Allen Bourgeois, and again, welcome to Dear Texas. We do encourage you to drop everything and read, but we do ask that you don't break anything. We don't want that to happen. But we do have a great collection of Texas authors' books for you to choose from. And to help you with that decision, we are here today to talk to Augusta Wright, who has written a couple books. And welcome, Augusta.
Thank you, Alan. It's good to be able to visit with you today.
It's our pleasure. We thank you for being with us. So let's just jump right out there, and let's start with your first book, The Runaway. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, The Runaway is, it's written about an older woman, a baby boomer, and she's widowed, and she decides that she's going to make some changes in her life, and she decides to move to Colorado, and she does that, but she does it kind of secretively. She doesn't tell her children where she's going or that she's even going. And so it gets to be quite an adventure when they discover Mom is not where Mom is supposed to be. And then she ends up meeting someone who she cares about, and just to be a friend, but he is much more serious. And so it gets to be into quite a romance. And anyway, it's a fun read and a little spicy in places. I like spice, and so my books always have a little spice in them.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that spice, because you have her learning things about the Native American culture. So by chance, is this romantic interest a member of that group, or is this something different?
Yes, he is. He works, well, he is a part Native American, and he's involved with some of that, as well as it brings in some of his family into the story, and it just kind of gets to be fun. There's powwows and things that she takes her children and grandchildren to as a result of being friends with these people, and I try to make everything on my books, I try to add stories that would, or research that I've done that might be of interest to everyone, to find out how maybe other cultures live, or what they pursue, or what they do every day, or even how they think. And even the stories, the new book that I've come out with also will have Native Americans in it, and my interests tend to run in that direction also.
Okay. So let's dive into that. How did that develop? How did you get into the Native American aspect?
Oh, I've always had an interest in that. I've always felt like the Native Americans, no matter what tribe they were mistreated, and there was just lots of issues that they had to suffer at the hands of white men or white people, and their lands were taken away from them. It's really a sad story when you get into reading it, and we wouldn't want anyone to treat us that way, but yet we treated them, who were actually here before we were.
By chance, do you have any Native American in your family?
No, actually, I don't. I have no direct kin. I've known people down through the years. A real good friend of mine, and she was a school teacher here. She was Native American from New Mexico, and that may have helped stir my interest, because I have been into New Mexico and visited with a number of people there, done quite a bit of research. I've gone into the pueblos. Now in Texas, they're called tribes, or referred to as tribes, but in New Mexico, a lot of those people they call their group Pueblos, and it's not exactly that they live in Pueblos, but they refer to themselves as, they're Pueblos, and they're very interesting. They're lots of fun to know. I've been invited into their homes and eaten meals with them, and they're just a delight to meet. So, yeah, I have a lot of interest in that, and I try to research and make everything as authentic as I can in my stories.
Great. You've written the first one, The Runaway, and it's a modern-day story because you said refer to the lady as a baby boomer. But your second one, Laura's Secret, is 100 years in the past. Why the switch?
Well, it's really funny how the story came about. I had started writing about Laura, and it's kind of hard to describe. I have these muses in my head. If writers or authors would understand, maybe more so than what I'm talking about, people that might be listening that are not writers are going, is this woman crazy? But I do have these people in my head that want out at times, and I just try to go with the flow. Well, I'm writing Laura's story, and someone else takes over and will not let me go forward with this story, and I have to stop and write her story. And her story, she's the daughter of Laura, and that will be the third book that's coming out. And I had to just literally do a rough draft book on Raven to get Raven to leave me alone so I can write the first book. Does that sound crazy or what?
It does sound crazy, but being an author, I fully understand what you're talking about. We've interviewed a lot of authors who have said that many, many times. Matter of fact, we actually on this show joke about it constantly, about these people, these characters that we have created, which actually in The Runaway, it would not surprise me if that character comes back to you and says, hey, I'm not done here. You need to pay some attention and stuff. So don't freak out if that happens.
Well, in truth now about The Runaway, I set some key things up in that to where it would lead me into Laura's Secret. And I was advised, I tried to do a prologue to Laura's Secrets, which would tie the two books together because it is all of the same family. And from advice from my editor and what have you, they did not like the prospect of the prologue, so I left it off, but I'm disappointed that I did because these families all tie together in one way or the other, regardless of it's 100 years apart, Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely lots of room for a trilogy or follow-ups or stories that connect everybody together over the 100 years. That's great.
Right.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And obviously Raven's one of those.
And what?
And Raven is one of those?
Raven will be the book 3 of, she is the daughter of Laura, and she has her own story to tell. And each one of Laura has special powers, special talents, abilities, whatever you want to call it, kind of in the supernatural. And of course, Native Americans, I write about the Native Americans, medicine men and stuff like that, and they all have special powers that they're born with or inherit or whatever, however you want to call it, but it's passed down from generation to generation. And so in Laura's children, that happens to them also. So there's some little spiritualism, spiritual episodes that happen and visions and what have you. And so I hope people enjoy reading about that because it does happen, and it is a known fact for people that have those special powers to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've actually written a couple books myself referring to those people and stuff, so I'm fully aware of that. Real quickly, where can people find your books?
Well, I'm on Amazon.com, of course, and I'm on TexasAuthor.com and Barnes and Noble. Okay. And I have a website that I'm trying to get up and running shortly, but once I get it up, you can go on my website and order either one of the books.
Do you have the website address?
It's AugustaWright.com.
Okay. All righty. Excuse me. We're going to come back in just a couple minutes, and we'll talk more about your various books, specifically Laura's Secret and possibly Raven and stuff, and also an event you participated in last week. But we will step away for a moment and let our sponsors do their thing. We'll be right back.
Okay.
It was the most popular aircraft in the world, but did it have a flaw? That is the central question in the new book Scapegoat by author Emilio Corsetti III. Scapegoat tells the true story of a flight crew wrongly blamed for causing a near-fatal accident and the captain's decades-long battle to clear his name. Get your copy of the book today at your favorite bookstore or at books.txauthors.com.
Dear Texas would like to thank our sponsors. I'm Alex Anthony, your announcer. For all inquiries regarding voiceover, narration, and announcing services as heard on this program, please make contact through voxluxstudio@gmail.com, voxluxstudio@gmail, or you can call 512-537-6077. Thank you for listening and for your support. Testing 1, 2, 3. McKinney, Texas's quaint downtown square, rich in history, entices visitors to discover its more than 100 eclectic shops and eateries. With origins dating back to 1848, McKinney is situated just 30 miles north of Dallas and 40 miles south of the Oklahoma border. One of the country's fastest-growing cities, McKinney maintains its authentic small-town atmosphere, which is palpable when exploring the downtown streets, taking a walk on one of the city's many nature trails, or even visiting the city's Croatian-style village. Learn more about what awaits you in this picturesque North Texas city at www.visitmckinney.com or call 888-649-8499. Wimberley Valley Tourism welcomes people to explore the many fine shops, restaurants, and wineries that make Wimberley special. More at wvtla.com. From concept to casting, recording to post-production, Spoke Media is dedicated to creating a superlative listener experience. www.spokemedia.io. The third annual short story contest begins March 1st and runs through July 31st. Enter your short story for a chance at prizes and getting published. To learn more about this annual event, please visit our website at txshorts.com. You are listening to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your host for today is B. Allen Bourgeois.
And we are back, and we appreciate you joining us for the second half of the show. We are with Augusta Wright, who has written a couple different books. She had The Runaway was her first book, and she also has Laura's Secret, which we were talking briefly about in our first segment. Augusta, I want to kind of go into Laura's Secret a little bit here. She is forced into a marriage that she doesn't want, but clearly her family does. And we're talking about the 1800s when that still happened a great deal.
Right.
Because it was an abusive relationship, she figures a way to get out of there, and the only way she can go is by wagon trail. And she ends up in Colorado Rockies. And earlier you had mentioned the fact that she has some special abilities. So take it from there and give us a little bit more insight as to who and what the story is about.
Well, Laura was young when she was forced into this marriage to an older man, and she was living in Missouri at that time with her parents, and then a couple of years later, her husband decides that they're going to go to California on a wagon train, and of course with no discussion with her, of course, like you said, in that time period, women just had to go along with whatever was decided for their future. And they started on a wagon train to California, but along the way, he began to hear stories about gold in the Colorado Rockies, and all this gold talk gave him gold fever. And when they got to Denver, he ended up buying a place in the Colorado Rocky Mountains up above Denver, sight unseen, and he takes her, just him and her, in a wagon, and they go up into the mountains to find this place. And of course, by that time it's late in the fall, and they were not prepared for winter. And she it describes how they barely survived the winter, and it makes her very determined to prepare. You have to be prepared or you die in the mountains. And so she learned very quickly what she had to do, and all he cared about doing was panning for gold in the streams, and he never helped her or anything. But after a few years, he dies suddenly, and she discovers that, one, she knew she'd be alone, but she never thought about it, and she discovers through a letter that he left her, she's penniless. So she has no money, and she's alone, and no money to buy food or anything like that. So it's a story about how this young girl learned to survive and to become a very strong pioneer woman. So I feel like it's an encouraging book to anyone, not just female, but that regardless of the difficulties you find yourself in, you can always strive to do better or, figure out things. It is very interesting. I'm just going to kind of leave you with a little teaser about what she does for a while in order to get by. It's interesting what she does. She's very, I hate to use the word very religious, but she is religious. She reads her Bible and stuff like that. So she tries to be a very good woman in that respect. But the story also shows how she is tempted she's led into temptation and the consequences of her actions. So, it does get a little spicy and sexual in some parts of it, but that's life, and that's what we all have to make decisions, and whether she's right or wrong, she shows us what she does about it. So anyway.
So it's an interesting thing that you brought up you brought up previously the American Native aspect and the spiritual context, but you also just mentioned that she's very religious. So isn't that a kind of a challenge to combine those two items?
Well, exactly. It sounds like it would be, but the way I've written it, her talents run more towards being able to speak to animals and things like that. But when she meets this Native American medicine man, of course their lives are different, but it shows how they are able to mesh their cultures and live together and, be happy. But, there again, it's not, I hate to say she's very religious. I use that maybe in the wrong term. She prayed to God, and she was, very faithful about reading her Bible and things like that, and tried to do the right thing. She wasn't promiscuous or anything like that. So when she does make mistakes, and it's a learning experience, but she also, prays that she'll learn from her experience and God will forgive her and she'll go on. So it's
now
mostly,
you mentioned,
go ahead.
You mentioned earlier that she talks to animals, and in this particular story you have what you have termed as a special silver wolf. Explain that.
Yes. Okay, this wolf appeared to her in her first year there in the mountains, and he never really had any direct physical contact with her, but he was always close to her, and they kind of communed with one another because he told her what his name was, and his name is Silver. And he's silver, and he's blue-eyed, and he's very special. And then when she is left alone, when her husband dies, that's when he comes forward and lets her know that she is no longer totally alone in the wilderness. And so she draws on his strength, and he's always there for her. So, but he does appear in the other books also. So I will just leave you with that little tidbit too.
Okay. Now you mentioned that Raven is the third book. You're right about the character Raven, and she's the daughter of Laura. Is she from the first marriage, or is this from somewhere else?
Her father is the Native American medicine man. Okay. And a lot of people nowadays use the word shaman to describe a medicine man, but that term is more for Asian or other countries. I have come to understand that Native Americans do not care for that word. They have always been, they say medicine man or medicine woman, and that is their spiritual leader, the one that does cares for them, physically, but also their spiritual leader. And so, and these are very powerful people. And so his children also have that ability.
Right.
So,
okay.
And that's where a lot of the secrets come in. Everybody has secrets in various forms, various different types of secrets, but sometimes if there are spiritual secrets or powers and things like that, people just do not want to just broadcast it. So
right.
that can be
and
secret.
We'll leave it there for keeping mystery into the books because we don't want to give away too much information. Last week you had the opportunity to participate at the state legislature for what was known as Texas Authors Day. Tell us a little bit about that.
I was so thrilled to be able to do that. I was there early, and it was so exciting to walk into the Capitol. That place just has such awesome vibrations, or whatever you want to call it. It's a beautiful building, and then you have all these people whipping around in there, and it was exciting to me to see the school buses that come with all the children and the teachers teaching them about Texas history and all of the things that have taken place in the Capitol or as a result of laws or everything like that passed down. And that particular day, it was, to me, so exciting to be part of the Texas Author Group and to go and I felt like we were all honored to have this resolution presented before the Congress and it be accepted. And it was a fun time. I have not been a member of Texas Authors very long, and so it was an opportunity to meet authors from around the state and those that live in Austin, and it was just I came back all aglow from such an experience, and it was fun, and I'm just kind of at a loss for words sometimes as to how to describe it, but it was an awesome time for me personally just to be there.
Well, great. Well, hopefully in a couple of years they're going to do it again, and a lot more authors will attend. But we're almost out of time, and before we run out of time, I want to make sure people know where to find your books.
Okay. Amazon.com, and, of course, Barnes & Noble have them. We also on Texas Authors, I believe, is it books.texasauthors.com? Is that the correct?
Right, books. Yeah, it's books.txauthors.com. Correct.
Yeah, that's what I had down. I wanted to make sure I had it right. That can be found there. And trying to think, there's several other places. I'm also on Twitter. If you want to friend me on Twitter and friend me on Facebook, I'm also Augusta Wright. It's on Facebook, and
your
I'm
website's
going
to be up soon, right?
Huh?
And you're working on your website, and that address is?
Yes. It will soon be up, and you can also purchase my books on that too if you're interested in reading about. Well, the first one is contemporary romance, and the second one is historical romance. So,
great. And the website is AugustaWright.com. Is that correct?
Yes, AugustaWright.com.
Wonderful. Well, we are out of time, and I thank you very much for being with us today and sharing some information, and hopefully the listeners will find your books interesting and go and purchase them somewhere. So, again, thank you very much for your time.
It was nice talking to you, Alan. I appreciate it.
Dear Texas would like to thank our sponsors, EBG 247, where you can find ebooks galore 24 hours, 7 days a week at ebg247.com. Bourgeois Media and Consulting, a book publishing consultant where creative inspiration is realized. More at bourgeoismedia.com. Thank you for listening to Dear Texas Radio. To learn more about Dear Texas and its literacy programs, please visit their website at deartexas.info. I'm Alex Anthony, your announcer. Have a great day.